What's up? I'm Lily. Revenge Crown brings you the stories that keep you hooked. If that sounds good, smash subscribe and let's go. The family dinner was supposed to celebrate my sister Ashley's 30th birthday. We were at Romano's, an upscale Italian restaurant, where entrees started at $45. My parents, Ashley, her husband Derek, and the family disappointment. I'd heard that phrase my entire life. When I chose accounting over law school, our disappointment is becoming a bean counter. When I bought a modest condo instead of a flashy house, the disappointment couldn't even buy a real home. When I drove a 3-year-old Honda instead of a luxury car, embarrassing that the disappointment couldn't afford something decent. Never mind that I was a senior financial analyst at a Fortune 500 company making $185,000 a year. Never mind that I had $340,000 saved for retirement at 33. Never mind that I owned my condo outright, had no debt, and had a 6-month emergency fund. Ashley, on the other hand, was the golden child. She'd married Derek, an entrepreneur who'd started 7 businesses, all of which had failed spectacularly. She worked part-time at a boutique, more for the employee discount than the paycheck. They lived in a rental they could barely afford, drove leased cars with payments that made my accountant brain hurt, and constantly complained about being cash poor. But Ashley was fun, spontaneous, living life to the fullest, while I was boring, practical, disappointing. So, Ashley announced as we finished appetizers, "I have exciting news, I quit my job today." Mom clapped her hands together. "Oh, honey, are you finally pursuing your dreams?" "Exactly." Ashley beamed. "I'm going to become a life coach. Derek and I are starting a wellness consulting business. We're going to change lives." Derek nodded enthusiastically. "The corporate world is soul-crushing. We're breaking free from the matrix." "That's wonderful," Dad said. "When does the business launch?" "We're in the visioning phase," Derek said. "Probably 6 months to a year before we're generating revenue." I did the math instantly. They'd need living expenses, startup costs, marketing, easily $60,000, $80,000 to get through the next year. "How are you funding this?" I asked. Ashley waved her hand dismissively. "We'll figure it out. The universe provides. The universe doesn't pay rent," I said. "Always so negative," Mom said, shooting me a look. "Why can't you be supportive of your sister's dreams?" "I'm being realistic." "Realistic," Ashley interrupted, laughing. "God, Marcus, you're so boring. This is why you're still single." "No one wants to date an accountant with no sense of adventure." "Actually," Derek said, leaning back in his chair, "we were thinking the family disappointment could help us out. You know, since you're so good with money and you have that stable job." I looked at him. "Help out how?" "Cover our expenses while we build the business," Ashley said brightly. "You can totally afford it. You don't spend money on anything fun anyway. What else are you going to do with it?" "Save it, invest it, use it for my own life." Mom set down her wine glass. "Marcus, your sister's family?" "Family helps family. How much are we talking?" I asked carefully. "Just our basic expenses," Ashley said. "Rent, car payments, utilities, food. Maybe $4,500 a month. For a year or so?" I pulled out my phone and opened my calculator. "That's $54,000 minimum. Plus startup costs for your business. Another $20,000 should cover it," Derek said. "We need a website, marketing materials, maybe a small office space. So you want me to give you $74,000, I said flatly. "Not give," Ashley corrected. "Invest. When the business takes off, we'll pay you back with interest." "What's your business plan? Revenue projections?" "Market analysis?" Derek laughed. "See, this is that corporate thinking. You can't plan inspiration, man. We're building something from the heart. The heart doesn't pay bills," I said. "You're being selfish," Mom said, her voice sharp now. "Your sister is taking a risk, following her passion. The least you can do is support her." "I've supported her," I said quietly. "I paid $8,000 for her wedding when she went over budget. I gave her $3,500 for a business opportunity 3 years ago that never materialized. I loaned Derek $2,200 for emergency car repairs that I never got back. I've given this family over $20,000 in the past 5 years. Not one penny has been repaid. Those were gifts," Ashley said quickly. You specifically said loan each time. Family doesn't keep score, Dad said. That's just sad, Marcus. Really sad. The waiter appeared. Can I get anyone dessert or after-dinner drinks? Yes, Ashley said. I'll have the tiramisu and a cappuccino. It's my birthday. Same for me, Derek said. I'll have the panna cotta, Mom added. Dad ordered cheesecake. They all looked at me. Just the check, I said. Which I assume I'm paying for, as usual. Well, yes, Mom said. You invited us to celebrate Ashley's birthday. Actually, Ashley texted me saying we were all meeting here to celebrate. I didn't invite anyone. Don't be petty, Ashley said. The family disappointment can pay for everything. You owe us this much for being such a boring presence in our lives. You owe us, Mom agreed. For the years we spent raising you, supporting you, dealing with your lack of ambition. My lack of ambition? I felt something snap inside me. I have a master's degree in finance. I'm a senior analyst at a major corporation. I own property. I have savings. What exactly is disappointing about that? You're not living, Ashley said. You're just existing. Going to your boring job, coming home to your boring condo, saving your boring money. Derek and I are taking chances. Living boldly. That's success. Success is being about to ask me for $74,000 while calling me a disappointment, I asked. Derek's face hardened. You going to help us or not? I looked around the table. At my sister who'd called me a disappointment while asking for money. At her husband who'd never repaid a loan. At my parents who'd spent 33 years making me feel inadequate. Okay, I said simply. Ashley's face lit up. Really? Sure. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Let me just take care of something first. I pulled up the account I'd set up 3 years ago. The one where I'd been automatically transferring money every month. The account that now had $47,000 in it. It was connected to 5 credit cards. Cards I'd opened in my name and given to my family members over the years, back when I still thought helping them was the right thing to do. Ashley had one. Derek had one. Mom had one. Dad had one. And there was a 5th one linked to my parents' bank account that I'd set up to help with emergencies, a direct line of credit that let them transfer money when needed. They didn't know I could see every transaction, every purchase, every cash advance. Over the past 3 years, they'd charged $47,000 to these cards. Vacations, designer clothes, restaurant meals, electronics. All things they claimed they couldn't afford while telling me I was disappointing for not spending my money more freely. I'd been paying the minimums, watching the balances grow, documenting everything. Marcus? Mom asked. What are you doing? Just 1 second, I said. I pulled up each card account and froze them, one by one. Then I changed all the passwords. Then I removed them all as authorized users. The entire process took 90 seconds. Okay, I said, setting my phone down. I'm done helping. What do you mean? Ashley asked. I mean, I just froze and closed all 5 credit cards you've been using. The ones in my name. The ones that have $47,000 in combined balances that I've been paying. The table went silent. You've been tracking our purchases? Mom's voice was shocked. They're cards in my name. I get notifications for every transaction. And yes, I've been documenting everything. Ashley, you spent $3,400 last month alone. Designer boots, spa days, that weekend trip to Napa. Derek, you've been using yours for golf club memberships and sports betting. Mom and Dad, you've been transferring money to cover your country club dues. That's an invasion of privacy, Dad said. It's my credit, my accounts. My money that's been paying for your lifestyle while you call me a disappointment. We never asked you to pay those cards, Ashley said quickly. I pulled up my email on my phone. Actually, you did. Here's an email from you, Ashley, from 2 years ago. Can you cover the minimum on my card this month? I'm a little short. Here's one from Mom last year. Marcus, honey, can you handle our card payment? Dad's having a tough month. I scrolled through dozens of emails. All of them asking me to make payments. All of them promising to pay me back. None of them ever doing so. So here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. I'm no longer paying these cards. You're all listed as authorized users, which means you're responsible for the charges you made. I've documented which charges belong to each of you. We can't afford that, Ashley said. Then you shouldn't have charged it. You're being vindictive, Mom said. Over what? We called you a disappointment. It's just a joke. Is it? I asked, because you've been saying it for 33 years. At my high school graduation, at my college graduation, when I bought my condo, when I got promoted. Every single achievement in my life, you found a way to diminish it while asking me to fund yours. The waiter returned with desserts and after-dinner drinks. The table sat in awkward silence as he distributed them. Will this be together or separate? He asked, holding the bill. Separate, I said. I'm only paying for my meal. Marcus. Mom looked horrified. You said the disappointment can pay for everything. I'm declining. You can split the rest however you want. I pulled out my wallet and handed the waiter my card along with cash for my portion. Keep the change. Ashley was pulling out her credit card, one of the ones I'd just frozen. She handed it to the waiter, who took it and walked away. So about the $74,000, Derek said, trying to salvage the situation. We really need… No, I said simply. No, I'm not giving you money. I'm not funding your business. I'm not covering your rent. I'm not paying for anything else. But we quit Ashley's job, Derek said. We're counting on this. Then you made a poor financial decision, I said. You quit a job before securing funding. That's bad planning, the waiter returned. Sir, I'm sorry, but this card was declined. Ashley's face flushed. That's impossible. Try it again. He did. Still declined, ma'am. Let me try mine, Mom said, handing over her card. Also declined. Dad tried his, declined. Derek tried his, declined. I watched as, one by one, they realized what I'd done. All the cards they'd been relying on, my cards, were frozen. You did this on purpose, Ashley said, her voice shaking. You brought us to an expensive restaurant knowing we couldn't pay. Actually, you told me we were meeting here. I suggested somewhere cheaper. You said, and I quote, "Don't be cheap, it's my birthday." The waiter stood awkwardly. So how would you like to handle this? Do any of you have another form of payment? I asked the table. No, silence. We can call someone, Mom said desperately. A friend, to bail you out of a restaurant bill because all your credit cards, the ones you didn't know were in someone else's name, are suddenly frozen? I asked. That's embarrassing. Marcus, please, Dad said. Don't do this. Do what? Let you face the consequences of your own spending. Experience what it's like to not have someone bail you out.
I turned to the waiter. I'll cover it just this once.
Add 20% tip. He looked relieved and hurried away. But this is the last time, I continued. The last meal, the last payment, the last bailout. You're all cut off. You can't do this, Ashley said. We're family. Family that's treated me like a personal bank account while calling me a disappointment. Family that's charged $47,000 to my credit while mocking me for being careful with money. Family that just asked me for $74,000 more while laughing about how boring I am. We didn't mean, Mom started. Yes, you did, I interrupted. You've always meant it. And I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt. I'm done funding a lifestyle you can't afford while you insult mine. I stood up. The bill's paid. Enjoy your desserts. And Ashley, happy birthday. I hope your business works out. I really do. But you'll be building it without my money. I walked out of Romano's and got into my disappointing Honda. I drove to my disappointing condo. I sat in my disappointing living room. And I felt free for the first time in 33 years. The call started the next morning. Ashley crying about how they couldn't make rent. Mom furious about her card being declined at the grocery store. Dad trying the calm and reasonable approach. Derek threatening legal action for fraud despite having no legal ground to stand on. I blocked all their numbers and changed my locks. They'd had keys to my condo, ostensibly for emergencies. I wasn't taking chances. My attorney, Robert Chung, called me that afternoon. Marcus, I got some angry voicemails from your family. Want to tell me what happened? I explained everything. The dinner, the cards, the freeze. Robert was quiet for a moment. The cards are in your name? Yes, they're authorized users, but I'm the primary account holder. And you've been paying the balances. Every month for 3 years. Then you've done nothing wrong. You have every right to close those accounts. But Marcus, they're going to escalate this. Let them, I said. I'm done. I'll send them a letter. Itemized charges, demand for repayment, timeline for response. If they don't pay, we can pursue it legally. Do it, I said. The letter went out 3 days later. Total owed, $47,000 broken down by person. Payment due in 30 days or we'd file suit. Ashley's response came via email to Robert. This is extortion. Marcus gave us those cards. We never agreed to pay him back. Robert's response was beautifully legal. Authorization to use a card doesn't constitute a gift of the charges. The primary account holder bears legal responsibility but has the right to seek repayment from authorized users. Failure to pay would result in civil action. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from a different attorney. My family had hired someone to threaten me with a lawsuit for financial abuse and emotional distress. Robert laughed when he saw it. Financial abuse? They're claiming you abused them by cutting off credit cards you were paying for. This won't go anywhere. It didn't. Their attorney sent one more threatening letter. Robert responded with our documentation, and we never heard from them again. 30 days came and went. No payment. Robert filed the civil suit. $47,000 in principal, plus interest, legal fees, and emotional distress. Total claim, $78,000. The trial was scheduled for 4 months out. In the meantime, my life got better. Without the constant drain of their demands, their criticism, their emergencies, I felt lighter. I met a woman named Rachel who was a physical therapist. She had her own career, her own savings, her own life. She thought my financial planning was attractive, not boring. You have a budget spreadsheet color-coded by category, she said, laughing. That's amazing. I just guess at stuff. I helped her set up a better system. She appreciated it. Called me smart, responsible, someone she could build a future with. We'd been dating 4 months when the trial arrived. The courtroom was small. My family sat on one side with their attorney, a young guy fresh out of law school who'd taken their case cheap. Robert and I sat on the other. The evidence was overwhelming. Every credit card statement. Every email asking me to make payments. Every text message promising to pay me back. Bank records showing I'd paid $47,000 over 3 years. Their attorney argued it was a gift. That families help each other. That I'd never explicitly asked for repayment. Robert pulled out printed emails. Your Honor, here are 17 separate occasions where the plaintiff explicitly asked for repayment and the defendants promised to pay him back. Here are text messages discussing payment plans that were never followed through on. This wasn't a gift, it was a loan they refused to repay. My family's attorney tried to argue emotional distress that my cutting them off had caused psychological harm. Robert's response was devastating. Your Honor, the defendants called my client the family disappointment for 33 years. They mocked his career, his home, his lifestyle, all while using his money to fund their own. They asked him for $74,000 more at a birthday dinner where they insulted him repeatedly. The emotional distress in this case belongs solely to my client. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Margaret Hollis, looked at my family over her glasses. Let me make sure I understand. You used credit cards in your son's name, charged $47,000, promised to pay him back, never did, and are now arguing he owes you continued financial support because you're family. We didn't know he was tracking our spending, Mom said. They were his credit cards, Judge Hollis said. He has every right to monitor accounts in his name. Do you have any evidence that these charges were gifts rather than loans? Silence. Do you have any evidence you ever paid him back even $1? More silence. Then this is straightforward. Judgment for the plaintiff. $47,000 in principal, $12,400 in interest and fees, $5,000 in emotional distress damages. My mother started crying. We don't have that kind of money. Then you shouldn't have spent it, Judge Hollis said. Perhaps the disappointment in this family isn't who you thought it was. The garnishment started 90 days later. Ashley's part-time boutique paychecks, she'd had to get her job back when the life coaching business predictably failed, were garnished 25%. Derek's unemployment checks were garnished. My parents' social security was garnished to the legal maximum. The monthly total, $1,247.50. At that rate, it would take them over 4 years to pay me back. Rachel and I got engaged 18 months after the trial. Neither my family nor anyone from their side was invited to the wedding. Rachel's family more than made up for it. Her parents, siblings, cousins, all embraced me completely. Her father, a retired accountant himself, pulled me aside at the engagement party. Rachel told me what happened with your family. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm not, I said, surprising myself. It freed me. From what? From trying to earn approval I was never going to get. From funding people who didn't respect me. From being the family disappointment, he smiled. You're not a disappointment, Marcus. You're a success story. And you're going to be a great husband to my daughter. 3 years after the trial, the final garnishment payment arrived. $1,247.50. Total recovered, $64,400, every penny. I put it all in a $529 college savings account. Rachel and I were expecting our first child, a daughter we planned to name Grace. Grace would grow up knowing her worth. Knowing that being responsible with money was admirable, not boring. Knowing that family should build you up, not tear you down. Knowing that sometimes the most disappointing thing you can do is let people who do and respect you keep using you. My mother sent a letter to our house 6 months after Grace was born. It arrived addressed to me, forwarded from my old condo since we'd moved to a house we'd bought together. Inside was a photo of Ashley's new baby, a son I hadn't known existed. On the back, Mom had written, "Your nephew James. Would be nice if you wanted to be part of his life. We're still family, despite everything." Rachel found me reading it in our kitchen. You okay? Yeah, I said, throwing it in the recycling. I'm perfect. You don't want to meet your nephew? I want to protect our daughter from people who call her a disappointment if she does and live up to their expectations, I said. James will figure out who they are eventually. I hope he does it faster than I did. Rachel kissed my forehead. Our daughter is lucky to have you. They called me the family disappointment. They mocked my career, my savings, my choices. Then they asked me to fund their dreams while continuing to insult mine. When I finally opened my banking app and froze every account they'd been using, they called it vindictive. When their cards declined at that restaurant, they called it cruel. When I sued them for $64,400 they'd charged to my credit, they called it betrayal. But what they couldn't call it was wrong. I spent 33 years trying to earn approval from people who would never give it. People who saw me as a resource, not a person. People who measured success by how much you spent, not how much you saved. The real disappointment wasn't me. It was them, disappointed that the ATM finally shut down. Disappointed that consequences were real. Disappointed that being family didn't entitle them to endless financial support from someone they treated like garbage. Now I have a wife who respects me, a daughter who'll grow up knowing her worth, and a savings account that isn't being drained by people who don't appreciate it. That's not disappointing. That's successful. And every month when I don't get calls asking for money, when my credit cards have only my charges on them, when I can plan our future without factoring in someone else's crisis, I remember that the best investment I ever made was in my own boundaries. The family disappointment finally learned his worth, and it was worth more than they ever deserved.